Well, good evening, everybody. This is John Unell from Schuylkill Haven, Pennsylvania, aka John I Fly. I hope everybody had a great Friday today. The weather here in East Central Pennsylvania is fantastic. Got a little warmer, felt a little humid, but not bad. I could deal with it. I'll take this any day over 10 degrees or whatever. But anyway, weekend is finally here, and what's happening? Well, as everybody knows, actually I should discuss, I was going to discuss the, now I'm getting lost here. No, I've got it right. The pullout in Afghanistan, the really big thing in the news. And the president got on today and addressed the nation at, well, he was about maybe 40 minutes late, but he got on and he addressed the nation about it. And some of the things he said, well, first of all, I agree with the fact that the president is pulling people out of Afghanistan. I mean, come on, 20 years we've had, and I think our country learned a lesson that's hard to learn, but I think they learned it. You just can't go over to another country and do what's called nation building. Especially in Afghanistan, it's not going to work. Didn't work for Russia, and it did not work for us. Now the wanting to establish a democracy or give people the chance to have the type of government they want is a laudable event. It really is. I mean, we ourselves are a democracy here in the United States. Yes, we have our faults and failures, but I take this form of government any day over what's now going on in Afghanistan. Those poor people are suffering. And like I said, I do agree with the president. I do think that there's some things that went wrong. Now, Biden today, the president, said that there was no indication that the Americans are unable to get to the airport. So, I don't know if I agree with them about that. I mean, you're talking about the U.S. troops are there, and they're around the perimeter of the airport, making sure that's secure. But anybody, any American or Afghanistanian that wants to get on board those planes, and if they're not inside that airport perimeter, it's very tough for them to make it through. I mean, figure it out. The Taliban have checkpoints, and they have automatic rifles strapped to them. It's not an easy thing, people. Let's put it that way. So I'm just not sure if the president's getting all the intelligence that he needs, but I tell you what, it's a risk. Excuse me, it's a risk to try to get to the airport. I mean, I know, what was it, yesterday? One of the reporters, Clarissa, I believe her name is, from CNN, interviewed one of the men there, and she asked him if he had a green card, and the guy said, of course I had a green card, but for some reason they couldn't get in, or they wouldn't let him in, or it's crazy. It's chaos over there. And so people trying to get into the airport to begin with they have a lot of hurdles to deal with. Plus, there's families there that have children. I remember seeing one scene where I believe it was a mother or somebody handed the baby up to the U.S. soldier over barbed wire yet. So, they want their kids to have a better life living under Taliban rules, not something to look forward to. And that's putting it mildly. Well, anyway. And what they're saying here, conditions outside the airport perimeter, they're growing increasingly desperate. So for people trying to get through, like the crowds, I mean, you figure the traffic, I understand the traffic's backed up there. I know yesterday was bumper to bumper, according to Clarissa, reporter for CNN. So just trying to drive through there is almost impossible, let alone having to go through these checkpoints. And if the Taliban finds out you have documentation that you helped be interpreters for the United States soldiers, they could be killed right then and there. Unbelievable. And the president said, Americans who want to come home, we will get you home. I don't doubt President Biden for saying that at all. The real trick is how you're going to get them to get to the airport to get them home. It's almost like they'd have to operate outside the airport somehow with special forces. I don't know how they're going to do it. They could have something planned and they're not letting us know, which is understandable. You don't want to tip your hand, But again, my heart goes out to the people in Afghanistan. There's some really good people over there. They don't deserve going through this. I don't know what happened. I just was listening to CNN just a little bit ago. And former Governor Kasich from Ohio, and of course he's a Republican. I don't agree with him on everything, but I tend to side with him on this one. He said something terribly went wrong. Now he's blaming Joe Biden for it. And Joe Biden said that the buck stops with him, so I think before we start handing out blame, we need to first get committees to investigate it. Really, the first thing we need to do is get people out of there. Get our people out of there and get the Afghan people that were helping us. Get them out. Maybe we need to trim back the rules a little bit because they're running out of time. I believe they gave August 31st as a deadline. I don't see that happening where they're all going to get out by the 31st unless they start picking up the amount of people they're flying out every day. And I don't see that happening right now. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they can come up with something. But anyway, there's a lot on Joe Biden's plate with this Afghanistan thing. I wouldn't want to be in his situation. But I still have confidence in him. Somehow, we got to get these people out. So what else is happening in the news today? Well, we're still dealing with the pandemic. And specifically with the variant, the Delta variant. I'm looking here, the new cases, and this is a 7-day average. According to CNN, they had it posted. There's 137,550 new cases. Now that's up 18% from a week ago. Imagine that. 137,550. The stats aren't going down, people, they're going up. And the amount of vaccines that were administered is 358 million. I believe that's over half now. I don't have the exact percentage. They didn't have it down, but We need to get more vaccinations going up, people. And these dingbats, I call them dingbats, that are crying, freedom! We shouldn't have to wear a mask. We shouldn't be under mask mandates. They're the problem, people. They're the problem. I mean, come on. I don't want to wear a mask for the rest of my life, you know. But you think these people would use common sense. Well, if you're going to use common sense, you have to have common sense in the first place. And they're trying to buck the system. Oh, I shouldn't have to wear a mask. Listen, people, the faster that you wear masks and the faster that you work with the medical community, the faster it'll be that we don't have to wear masks anymore. And we can get this pandemic under control and get rid of it. But people don't think that way. They think of the instant gratification now. I want my rights now. Well, you have rights. Nobody's taking your rights away. But something has to be done with this. This is an emergency, a medical emergency, people. And somehow, people are getting politics into it. Listen, the virus doesn't give a shit if you're Republican or Democrat. Doesn't give a shit whatsoever. Okay? You get it. If you're not vaccinated, you stand a good risk of getting very, very sick. And God forbid having to be put on a ventilator and possibly dying. I remember seeing a few days ago, they were interviewing this one guy, and he had an air tube going into him and all, and the CNN reporter asked him, he said, what do you have to say with people that need the vaccine? He says, get it. Don't fool around. He said, I wish that I would have taken the vaccine. Now, his excuse was that, well, I didn't have time. I didn't have time to get vaccinated. I had other things to do. Well, think about it, people. Now he has all the time in the world laying in a hospital bed. It's not a vacation, I'll tell you that much. So, people need to wake up. This is not a political game, people. This is a medical emergency. The COVID-19 virus, if you're not vaccinated, and if you get the variant, the Delta variant, it'll kill you. Simple as that. So, if you want to live a little longer, I highly suggest getting vaccinated. This new variant is not just limited to older people, it's hitting younger people too. So let's wake up, people. Smell the coffee. Let's start taking the vaccine when it's offered to you. And they don't charge you for it. I mean, what can go wrong? You may feel a little uncomfortable. I remember when I got my shot, I had the first shot in mid-March, I believe it was. And then 3 weeks later, I went and got my second shot. The second shot, the next day I had a little bit of low-grade fever. Had a little, low-grade fever. I had a little bit of a headache. And I touched my earlobes and they were very hot. So obviously I was running a low-grade fever. But that was the extent of it. By the following day I was fine. It was well worth going through because the very fact that I had these symptoms meant that my body was fighting, building up immunity to this vaccine. Or not this vaccine, but the virus, I should say. So, there's nothing to be afraid of. Believe me, people. Now, if you've had your two vaccinations, they're saying 8 months afterwards you should get a booster shot. So for me, I'll be due for my booster shot sometime in December. Fortunately, there's enough vaccines around the area now, I should be able to get it right from my doctor. But people, don't fool around with this virus. It's just not worth fooling around with. Anyway, I think that's all I'm going to talk about. They did have one thing, this Capitol bomb threat suspect. They had him in court today, and he claimed that he didn't take his medication, what have you. But if you listen to him, I got bits and pieces of it. He was spouting out MAGA, right-wing propaganda bullshit. Now, he's supposed to be taking medication for his mind and some other medical condition. They did charge him with threatening to use a weapon of mass destruction. And I wouldn't want to be him if I believe I'm not sure if, I think it was 1 or 2 charges he had. If he gets charged with the first one, I believe it was the threat of using a terroristic threat to use a weapon of mass destruction, he could spend the rest of his life in prison. And there's a lesser charge where he'd spend at least 10 years. I don't know what these people think. I really don't know what they think. It could very well, he claimed he didn't take his mental medication, so that could be it, but he knew enough to spout out this right-wing nut job propaganda stuff. And, well, I guess he's just gonna have to learn the hard way, Anyway, that's about all I have to. Just trying to fish around for something else to say, but we're living in interesting times, people. Interesting times. Wow. Well, in any event, let's hope that this thing with Afghanistan goes well. I'm sure they're going to have investigations into this. Somebody dropped the ball somewhere. The Republicans are trying to blame it on Joe Biden. I think it's the people under him somehow. The fact is that Taliban, they approached and conquered Afghanistan faster than what most people realize. I don't know, I've been hearing things that, well, if people would have planned early enough, we could have got these people out. It's always good to talk about something in hindsight. Anybody can do that. It's obviously something went wrong. We're just going to have to wait and see. Let's concentrate right now on getting the people out, getting the Americans out and the Afghan people that help to translate for the Americans. Get them out. They sacrificed their lives. As far as I'm concerned, they're just as honorable, I should say, as our Americans, our heroes, our American soldiers. They staked their life. So let's get them out and take care of them. Okay, that's it, people. Remember to like and subscribe. On YouTube, I go as John I Fly. That's all small letters, JOHNIFLY. Or you can find me on Facebook under my real name, John R. Unell. That's UNELL. And like, subscribe, and comment. Be sure to comment. I love reading them. I find encouragement reading the comments and to frankly just hear what you people have to say. Take care of yourself. have a great weekend, and hopefully I'll talk to you people again next Wednesday. Okay? Have a good night and a great weekend. Bye-bye.